Ooh. Right then. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you. Cool. So it's on StreamYard. Do you mind just checking on your Facebook on my page if it's going live, please, before I officially start? Thanks, Roman. So I just got someone checking Facebook to make sure the sound's on this time. Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Roman. Okay, then I'm ready to get started now. So welcome everyone. Thank you for your patience while I just sorted that out because of the technical problems yesterday. So today we're going to be exploring unlocking the canine vagus nerve. And I'm excited to share how the vagus nerve plays a crucial role in canine health, behavior, and emotional regulation. Whether you're a guardian, trainer, or behaviorist, understanding the vagus nerve can help us better support our dogs, particularly those struggling with stress and anxiety. So here's a little bit about me. So I'm a holistic dog behaviorist and trainer, and I focus on education of guardians and their dogs, focusing on collaborative-based relationships for individualized care for dogs, and focus on healing trauma and relationships, bonding, care, and understanding. I also focus on helping people with disabilities and their relationship with their dogs, whether it's from an educational point of view or assistance dogs, ensuring that people's needs are met individually and inclusively. I share my life with my 4 dogs, Diesel, Coda, Django, and Zombie. And I do take the opportunity to publicly share their lives by creating tutorials for guardians and colleagues, from collaborative care for better welfare to games-based learning to enjoy bonding and understanding their dog while subtly removing obedience. I'm also the co-chair of the Pet Professional Guild Assistance Animal Division, member of Sit Into Dogs Social Inclusion Team, and I'm also Do No Harm Dog Training Group moderator. If you'd like to find out even more about me, if you go to my website, mutsandmischief.com, you'll find more information about me there, and there's just too much to go into. So let's have a look at the learning points. So tonight is all about focusing on why the vagus nerve is so important, the role of the vagus nerve and how this affects dogs, and how to support dogs to have the best opportunity for high vagal tone. Dogs, just like humans, have a nervous system that influences their emotional and physical health. But did you know that there's a single nerve which plays a massive role in regulating their ability to relax, digest food, and recover from stress? And this is the vagus nerve. And I think it's really important for guardians of dogs that are emotionally challenged or struggle with hyperarousal or hypoarousal to tune in and listen to this, or even if you listen back to the recording, I think it's really important because you will learn a lot. Today we're going to explore exactly what it does, how it impacts behaviour, and most importantly, how we can support our dogs' well-being by improving vagal tone. And yes, that's a thing. By the end of this webinar, you'll have practical tools to help dogs to feel safer, calmer, and more resilient. I also thought this webinar was particularly important because I'm streaming for Mind. For those who don't know, Mind is a mental health charity in the UK, and they've given me a lot of support since being a teenager. And I think it's important, especially in our industry, that we do have somewhere to go with anonymity if needed. We have someone to talk to who's a professional, and they can signpost us to other services which may be able to support us even more. And that's why it's particularly important for me to do this campaign of doing live webinars, streaming for Mind. And I think it's going to help us to talk about mental health of dogs as well, which is something that is still kind of new. So going back to the vagus nerve, it begins developing early in a puppy's fetal stage. So babies, as in human babies, and puppies, as they're beginning to grow within the mother, they start forming their neural crest cells, which then later becomes the vagus nerve. So by the time that they're born, it is functionally present and it continues to mature as a part of the autonomic nervous system. During the neonatal period, the vagus nerve plays a role in doing things like regulating heartbeat, digestion, and vocalization. And as puppies grow, their vagal tone strengthens and is obviously influenced by early life experiences, socialization, and stress levels. The vagus nerve doesn't need to work quite so hard when a puppy's first born because the puppy isn't yet aware of things to be fearful of. Like in most cases, the mother is there supplying the food, warmth, so they're getting all of the biological needs immediately met while their senses are still developing. So the canine vagus nerve is structurally present at birth, as we just discussed, and then basic functions like heart rate regulation, digestion, and vocalization are active in neonatal puppies, and then full vagal tone development it occurs over the first few months of life. So by time that the puppy is 12 to 16 weeks old, the vagus nerve is more mature and it's now supporting autonomic regulation, and the function of the vagus nerve continues to be shaped by experiences, stress levels, and overall health throughout the dog's life. And proper socialization and low stress environments during early development can help optimize the vagus nerve function. There is no single book about the canine vagus nerve, and there's very little out there from a psychiatry standpoint for humans. However, we do have very clever people who've written books. So if you want to look further at recommended books, I'd recommend Miller's Anatomy of the Dog, which is a very comprehensive textbook which details information on canine anatomy, and it also includes the nervous system and the vagus nerve roles. Fundamentals of Canine Neuroanatomy and Neurophysiology. I'm still trying to get this book because it is quite expensive. It's still got a big price tag, even on the eBay as a used book for £80. But this book offers insights into the structure and the function of the canine nervous system in depth, which, like with the cranial nerves, such as the vagus nerve, you can get a lot more information. So if you can't afford it, like myself, if you check out a library, you may be able to get a copy of that book. There's the King's Applied Anatomy of the Central Nervous System of Domestic Animals. Jeff Skerritt's work delves into the anatomy of the central nervous system in domestic animals, including discussions on the vagus nerve. And then if you want to get even more technical, there's the textbook of veterinary internal medicine. And again, this book looks at neurology and the autonomic nervous system and covers aspects of the vagus nerve. And then we've also got, finally, the Canine and Feline Neurology, a systematic approach, again, which is going to be a bit more heavy going, and that provides a systematic overview of neurological disorders in dogs and cats with information on cranial nerves such as vagus nerve. So like canine behaviorists, like this is a book that you may be really interested in to learn more about neurology. And then we've also got recent studies which are free. So if you look at Frontier's website, for example, we've got the non-invasive vagus nerve stimulation for refractory seizure activity. And this study particularly looked at the feasibility of non-invasive nerve stimulation as an adjunctive treatment for dogs with refractory epilepsy by Robertson and others in 2020. I highly recommend that paper. I've referred to it a lot and done quite a lot of research from that paper as well. And then there is also vagus nerve stimulation in heart failure progression. Research demonstrated that chronic vagus nerve stimulation improves autonomic control and reduces heart failure progression in a canine model, which is Costello and others 2022. Again, another really great paper that I've looked at a lot because I am really passionate about the vagus nerve. So these resources and studies should provide valuable insight into the structure, function, and the clinical significance of the vagus nerve in dogs. So luckily today we're going to keep it more simple so that everybody can understand, because it is quite difficult to understand. And I'm here saying, oh, we can like help your dog's vagus nerve, and you're going, but it's part of the nervous system, so how do we do that? So we're going to be discussing like the involuntary actions of our nervous systems and dogs, and also the parts of like how we can support the dog to have a better vagus nerve, and also ourselves, because both sides of the lead are important. It's not just focused on the dog. If the primary caregiver is not well, then the dog's not going to cope well either. So here we've got a diagram, and here you can see it begins in the brainstem, and it goes behind the optic nerves, and then it runs through into the chest area, up to the heart, and then right down here to the stomach. So the vagus nerve directly communicates with the gut and is responsible for controlling how the body responds to stimuli, such as rest and digest, and freeze, fight, and flight. And to get even more technical, fawn as well. But we're going to be discussing that later in the slides, so just hold on to that one, remember that one. The vagus nerve is connected directly to the brain and is responsible for connecting and regulating internal organ functions. The vagus nerve is also responsible for some involuntary reflexes. And I've also included a reference that you can look up yourself, especially if you're doing any studies on the canine vagus nerve. And it has the largest concentration of tissue after the brain and the spinal cord. And it also has like its own nervous system going on. But we're going to discuss all of that and like break it down through the slides. So what exactly is the vagus nerve? So you have all of us people talking about it and dog professionals going on about it, but let's break it down into a more manageable and easy way to digest it. So the vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve within the body, and it runs from the brainstem down through the heart, the lungs, and the digestive system, and it acts as a key player in the parasympathetic nervous system. It's responsible for what we call rest and digest states, and it helps the body to relax, slow the heart rate, and support digestion. So something I did find from last night in my dry run is that I kept getting tongue-tied with this. So if I refer to the parasympathetic nervous system as PNS, that's what I'm referring to, just so that you're aware, because I keep tripping over myself. In contrast to the sympathetic nervous system, which triggers the fight or flight response, there we've got the parasympathetic nervous system and then the sympathetic nervous system, which are two different nervous systems, but which both play vital roles in basically keeping us alive, keeping dogs alive and lots of other species alive. So it may be that I'm referring to PNS for the parasympathetic nervous system and SNS for the sympathetic nervous system. When the vagus nerve isn't functioning well due to chronic stress, trauma, illnesses, it can lead to further anxiety, fear responses, and even digestive issues. And I've put you another reference there as well for Porges of 2011. So again, I'd look at this reference. I'm going to supply it at the end. But his paper definitely worth his having a look over as well. So, the parasympathetic versus the sympathetic nervous system in dogs, understanding how stress and relaxation affect canine behavior. So there we are again with those complicated words. So again, it's going to be PNS or SNS, just that you can follow along. And a good way to remember is the SNS represents fight or flight, and the PNS represents rest and digest. So we need both of those to be working in order to keep us alive, in order to keep dogs alive, and understanding the two roles that these nervous systems play, and then how the vagus nerve comes into play with it as well. So there are two different branches that control bodies. The two main branches that influence how dogs respond to stress, excitement, and relaxation by understanding the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems. We can better support our dog's emotional and physical well-being, which is really true. So there are lots of things that we're going to talk about tonight about how we can help dogs. So for those of you who have reactive dogs, or you may say emotionally challenged dogs, I'm going to be using the word reactive a lot tonight because a lot more people know this word and respond to it. But by working with the vagus nerve and understanding the vagus nerve, we're going to really help dogs to be able to thrive. So the sympathetic nervous system, again, SNS. I'm doing better than last night. So this helps a dog to counterbalance the SNS system. So this is what kicks in when a dog perceives something as exciting, stressful, or even dangerous. And if you've worked with me, then you know that I always say excitement and like fear, stress are shared by the same hormone, which is sometimes why we can misread what a dog is trying to communicate with us, because unfortunately it's the same in humans. For example, myself being autistic, we don't always know if we're stressed out or if we're excited about something, and it unfortunately it's the same thing for dogs. And dogs don't have counselors, they have us guys trying to work it out, scientists trying to work it out, and then working with your individual dog in a holistic way. We all come together and work with your one dog to try and make sure that, you know, we're all on the right track in helping your dog to have a better life. So if you think about it this way, so a dog who suddenly spots a squirrel and chases it, or a dog that sees another dog and starts barking frantically, that's the SNS in action. And it's getting the body ready for movement. So it's either survival or intense focus. So the fight or flight, the fawn response, this is when it keeps us, our bodies literally keep us alive by getting us away from danger. And the whole body then concentrates on getting us out of danger. Or if a dog sees a squirrel and is really excited by that, the dog's body is getting ready to chase a squirrel and to basically move into the predation sequence. So when the SNS is activated, the heart rate and blood pressure increase to pump more oxygen to the muscles. Digestion slows down because the body's focused on the immediate action and not processing foods, as digestion kind of takes a step back. The dog's body becomes tense, alert, and ready to respond. So the SNS is essential because it helps dogs to survive, run, and react. But when it's constantly activated, this leads to chronic stress, anxiety, and even reactivity. So this is when we begin to see guardians getting stressed out because of the walks. You know, they're uncomfortable. It is essential. And like the other problem is with dogs with chronic stress, if they stay in the SNS dominant state for too long, they begin to show hypervigilant behaviors. So they're always on edge and looking for particular threats. I know a lot of guardians that I've worked with have said, like, as soon as we go out the door, the dog's searching for something straight away. And normally this is that they're scared, and they're scared of running into another dog. Overexcitement, struggling to calm down after stimulation. So we've all seen it on social media where Spaniels in particular bounce up and down because they're so excited on their walks. And again, we don't want a dog in that state because their body's just so hyped up and ready for action. And it's also quite exhausting for them as well. So then we see reactivity, which we all understand and know as like barking, lunging, aggressive displays. And again, the digestive issues due to the long-term effects, the gut begins to suffer as well, which is something we're going to talk more in depth, but food can be medicine as well. So let's say that if we've gone out and the dog's had a negative experience with a stranger, if their SNS system remains overactive, they may become more fearful or defensive in future encounters. So that's like, for example, when a dog nips at somebody and then that person moves away, they've gone away, the dog's like, well, that worked, so I'm going to do that again in the future. And that's because their body and their brain remember the stressors and prepare them automatically. So then we get to stages where the dog repeats their behavior and they keep repeating the behavior because now it's just become an automatic reflex when they're feeling that stress and fear. So yeah, let's have a look at the other system. So how the PNS affects behavior. So the PNS is opposite. So if you try and remember yin and yang, like that's the best way to try and remember it. Just looking at my notes, sorry. Yeah, so when a dog's relaxed, sleeping, or calmly sniffing, their nervous system, or the PNS, which is a counterbalance, so that's going back to SNS. It slows their heart rate and their blood pressure. It helps them digest food properly and absorb nutrients and engage in social bonding and relaxation. A strong PNS means that a dog can recover from stress quickly. This is essential for a well-adjusted, resilient dog who can cope with new experiences and return to a calm state after excitement. However, we just got to bear in mind it doesn't make you a bad dog guardian if your dog isn't this dog right now, because that's what we're aiming for, and this is the point of the webinar. So if we start to think about how the PNS might be affecting behavior, you might see a dog enjoy sniffing on a walk, and then they go to sleep afterwards, have a nap, and this dog represents like having a healthy nervous system regulation. But a dog who's restless, panting, unable to switch off, maybe struggling to activate their PNS system. And again, it's not something that a dog can kind of think about, and it's not something that we as humans kind of think about. We either are in a calm state or we're in a stress state and we're still feeling stressed and anxious after the event. So it's not your dog doing anything to you out of spite or malice or trying to embarrass you. They literally can't help it, just as we can't. So we need to start thinking about how we can find a happy balance and help the dog to shift between both systems, and how we can get both of those systems working together in the correct way, which is what we're going to discuss in a little while. Okay, so here's a quick reference guide. So if you email me and you want a copy of the slides to print off or to download, that's absolutely fine. I'm more than happy to do that as well. So if we look at the SNS system first, with a fight or flight. So again, I just want to recap. We're going to see increases in heart rate and blood pressure. We're going to see adrenaline and cortisol hormone spike. So again, a lot of my clients know that I'm banging on about hormones and brain chemicals all the time. And then we also see heightened alertness, muscle tension, and then suppressed digestion and immune function. So that means with like the immune function, these dogs are more likely to get sick, and we're likely to see vomiting, diarrhea, and probably even more medical problems. With the PNS system, which is rest and digest, we've got slower heart rate, slower blood pressure, stress and recovery, hormone regulation, because the hormones are able to regulate in the way that they're meant to, relax muscles, calm demeanor, and improve digestion and immune function. So they are literally like yin and yang, and they do the opposite of the other one. So that's like an easy way to remember it, just not the pronunciation. Okay, so like I've been banging on about it, how can we help dogs to shift from stress to relaxation? So I'm going to include tutorials at the end. Again, because when I did it last night, it just went over for too long. So things that we can do to help them are like slow, calm breathing exercises. So I've got availability for a tutorial for like take a breath, and it shows you how the dog kind of like takes breath. So when somebody says to you like breathe and take a breath, and then we like sigh and we let it all out, this is kind of like activating the PNS system and trying to shut down the SNS system. Even if you're not into scent work and you don't feel scent work is something that you're interested in, sniffing and nose work games can really help dogs, and that can again get the PNS system going and try and reduce the SNS system and the hormones. Chewing and licking activities. So anyone who's seen a licky mat advert or any kind now, because so many people do them, you'll see that they say chewing and licking. That action, that physical action of licking, it brings anxiety down and it helps dogs with anxiety. Having predictable routines as much as possible. So by this, I don't mean like living by a schedule every single day, day in, day out. What I mean is like, if you go for a walk and you know that your dog is going to be sky high, bouncing all over the place, you're going to struggle to get the harness and the lead on. If you put the harness on and then go back to what you was doing, and then think about putting the lead on half an hour later, then that means that you've got a predictable routine, but the dog just doesn't know when it's going to come. And this can kind of help you for success. So they get excited, and when you go out the door, because they've had that rush of excitement, within 5 minutes, you're probably going to have a much calmer walk. So that's what I mean by predictable routines. Massage and T-touch, they're both wonderful tools. It is really important with massage or T-touch that you listen to the professionals who are qualified and follow their advice on exercises such as the depth of touch, how you touch, the motions of the touch. So, for example, if you used to rub your eyelid, you know how hard you can kind of rub before it's really uncomfortable. So if it's getting to the point where it's uncomfortable, we're not putting that amount of pressure on the dogs. You want to rub your eyelid and then it doesn't make you feel uncomfortable. It doesn't depress your eyeball into the socket. So you want a nice gentle touch and then transfer that to touching your dog. So when you have a cuddle with them, just gently massaging. So it kind of feels like you're barely touching them, but you are. And moving the skin around, because the skin in itself is like one huge organ. This can also help the PNS system to get kick-started and for your dog to start to relax. And also T-touch have some brilliant exercises for anxious humans. Janet Finley's done some wonderful tutorials on how to do massage on yourself by pressing where your heart is on your chest and like lifting the skin and rotating. But honestly, go watch Janet Finley's tutorial because it's much better than what I can possibly describe. And like I say, both of you are important, you know, both ends of the lead. If you're not okay as a primary caregiver, your dog's not going to be okay, and vice versa. So, you know, it's about striking a happy balance and a happy medium for both of you, not just where we're focusing everything on the dog and you're at the point of burnout. Okay, so now that we understand the vagus nerve and the autonomic nervous system, we're just going to go a little bit further in. So to understand why the vagus nerve is so important, we need to look at the autonomic nervous system. So we already know that it has a sympathetic nervous system, which triggers fight or flight, and the parasympathetic nervous system, which promotes relaxation and recovery, with the vagus nerve being the key player in this. A well-functioning vagus nerve helps dogs and us to shift easily from stress to relaxation. But if their vagal tone is weak, they maybe struggle to calm down after stressful events, leading to chronic anxiety or overactivity. Okay, so this is kind of like a graph that I made to know if a dog has a good vagal tone. And you can see that it crosses over as well. So they're kind of missing each other. So as you can read, I'll just give you a second. So high vagal tone has a relaxed body, soft facial expression, good digestion, stable heart rate, and strong social interactions, whereas a low vagal tone is frequent anxiety, hypervigilance, digestive issues, and difficulty recovering from stress. Dogs with poor vagal tone often appear on edge, as we've already discussed, and struggle with rest, may show nervous behaviours like pacing, whining, or licking excessively. And like I say, it does cross over. So you do have these times when, a dog is crossing over into both, and you might be saying, yeah, but my dog does have a relaxed body and a soft facial expression, but they may also be hypervigilant and aware, or they may be having digestive issues. So like anything with anything kind of medical, there's always going to be a crossover and a shift until you switch into like, is this a permanent state or not? And this is also where a veterinarian comes in, which we're going to talk about as well. So the vagus nerve and behavior. So now we know a little bit more about the vagus nerve. A dysregulated vagus nerve can significantly impact a dog's behavior, their health, and their well-being. Dogs with low vagal tone may be more prone to fear-based reactivity, aggression, or separation anxiety. And this chronic stress can then keep their nervous system in a heightened state of alert, making it difficult to settle or focus during training. By improving vagal tone, we can help dogs become more resilient, adaptable, and relaxed in their daily lives. So again, you're not a good or a bad dog guardian at all. Like if your dog's struggling, it's fine, and you need support to be able to get through it. It doesn't mean that you've done anything wrong. And I think when we change our opinions from having a negative perspective of our dog to a positive perspective of our dog, we gather strength from that as well. Okay, so let's have a look at the vagal tone and the gut-brain axis. So obviously now we know that the vagus nerve plays a crucial role in digestion, which is linking the brain and the gut. Obviously, with chronic stress, it can lead to digestive issues, which in turn worsens anxiety, because we all know the more that you kind of like struggling with your tummy and digestion and going to the toilet a lot more, that makes you more anxious as well, because then you're panicking, like as a human, whether you can get to the toilet. And it's the same for our dogs, especially if we've got a dog who in the past, whether via a different guardian or different circumstances, experienced punishment for toileting in the house. This dog's going to be getting really stressed, panting a lot, getting really anxious because they're scared of what their body's going to do, and then how that guardian is going to react to them. So if we support gut health with proper diet and probiotics, we can help improve vagal tone and their overall emotional well-being. And again, another reference, if you look up Mayo 2016 and the Mind-Gut Connection, that's a very good read as well. But food literally can be medicine. So I'm reading The Forever Dog by Dr. Karen Becker at the moment, and this is all about how food can be medicine and how we can use food to our advantage. So even if your dog's on a kibble-based diet, goat milk, live culture yogurt, bone broth, these are all really good probiotics that you can add into your dog's food to help them with that immune system. Okay, so you might be wondering, like, but why again is the vagus nerve so important? Because I keep going on about the PNS and the SNS. But if we've got a strong vagus, like a high vagal tone, it helps dogs to recover from stress quickly, stay calm in new environments, have good digestion and appetite regulation, sleep well, and settle easily. Whereas low vagal tone leads to anxiety, excessive reactivity, or even shutdown. Chronic gut issues, so we're looking at diarrhea, vomiting, constipation, even worse sometimes, and then poor recovery from stress. So we can begin to start to build this picture and see that the dog's struggling in all aspects of their life, right up until their toileting habits as well. So we've got frustrated, stressed out dog guardians, quite rightly, because you don't have this information, because our industry does not put it out there, apart from a select few of us who do work really hard to give you this information. So you will feel like a bad dog guardian. And I had my awakening kind of on Reddit of the amount of people that struggle and feel that they're failing their dog and they need to give up their dog. And it was a real wake-up call for me, to kind of see how normal people all over the world are struggling, and there is no information out there that is really easy for them to understand and grab or listen to and say, no, I understand. So this is what a part of this is about. So we know now that, like, with the signs of low vagal tone, we've got stress recovery, which is taking a long time for them to settle after being startled. So for guardians to say, my dog reacted to one dog and then that was it, the rest of the walk, it was react, react, react. We're seeing heart rate variability, so they're more rigid, and their heart rate is less adaptable. Gut issues, so we've got, again, chronic diarrhea, constipation or vomiting. Sleep problems, which is restless sleep, difficulty settling. Social sensitivities, so they're easily overstimulated, reactive or fearful. This doesn't always mean that your dog reacts to another dog or a person. It could be that the dog's really struggling in the home because you have visitors. Maybe you work from home in a job that requires your clients to come into your house. Like, there's so many different things that we've got to think about in the environment and why a dog might be getting stressed, because, like I said, it's not always about reacting at strangers or other dogs. So how you as a guardian can be empowered to assess vagal tone. So journals, I love journals. I've just released another one, which is specifically for all of the family, so everyone can join in. But mostly, I was encouraged to make it again because of how much guardians are struggling, and I want you to be able to see, like, from journaling and keeping a note of things and working with a vet and other therapeutic people for your individual dog, that you're not a bad dog guardian, and you can also see things for yourself. And then you're empowered and you have the knowledge to go to the vet and say, I want an investigation open into my dog. This is what I'm worried about. And then you have the power to say the words like cascade. You want a cascade starting. So with a cascade, that might be a case of x-rays or gait analysis or medication. And we've got to take the stigma away as well that medication is a dirty word, because medication can actually be really helpful, whether it's a 2-week trial of pain medication or maybe some antidepressants or anti-anxiety medication. And again, with journaling, you can see how your dog was from the first day of taking that medication to the 2 or the 4 weeks in which the vet wants to see your dog again. But you have the power and you're not going in blind. You say, I can see from my recordings in my journal of how my dog's been reacting each day and what's been occurring each day. So this is all about giving the power to you. So if we look at heart rate variability, this is something that we need to work with the vets with. So heart rate variability is the main thing that we're going to be looking at as the tool, which tells us about the vagus tone, and like whether it's a high vagus tone or a low vagus tone, and whether the vagus nerve needs more support. So a higher heart rate variability suggests good vagal tone, meaning the dog can shift between relaxation and alertness easily, whereas a lower heart rate variability may indicate chronic stress or poor autonomic regulation. So ways that you can assess it is by asking the vet for an EKG or a heart rate monitor designed for dogs. They may even know some exercises that you can do at home to monitor what your dog's heart rate is doing. And with this, we're looking for a pattern of variation, and then more variability between the beats suggests better vagal tone, whilst a rigid, steady heart rate suggests a lower tone, lower vagal influence. We've also got respiratory sinus arrhythmia, which is a natural fluctuation again in heart rate that occurs with breathing. So now we've gone from the heart and now we're looking at lungs as well. So when a dog inhales, the heart rate should slightly increase, and when they exhale, it should slightly decrease. That's a sign of a healthy vagal function. So again, through gently observing or feeling for the dog's heartbeat while they breathe, so like while they're asleep or resting, and then if you're touching them another time, maybe like when you're playing and the heart rate speeds up, and inhalation slows down, that's a positive sign of vagal tone. And if there's little to no change, it can indicate reduced vagal activity. Again, the vets will be the best people to give you exercises in which you can monitor this. Gut health and digestion. So coming back to this one again, the vagus nerve play a major role in digestion by stimulating the gut, and poor vagal tone can lead to sluggish digestion, reduced gut motility, and issues like bloating and or constipation. So again, something at home that you can be empowered to do is observe your dog's appetite and their digestion. So this will mean, for example, writing down what you've given them as a meal, including any like meal toppers, supplements, anything like that, how long it took them to eat the food, how long it took them to go to the toilet, and then what their toileting was like. Because again, that gives you the power when you go to see the vet. So obviously check stool consistency and frequency. See if there's any irregularities in your dog's stools. And is like, as you journal it over the days, can you see if it looks the same, or if there are big changes, or one day they've got diarrhea and then the next day they've got constipation? Having that information gives you the power back as the guardian to advocate for your dog. If a dog frequently experiences nausea, vomiting, food aversion, these can be signs of vagal impairment. So again, nausea, because it's kind of like, it's a feeling, it's hard for us to explain. It's really hard for our dogs to explain what nausea feels like to them. But some telltale signs can be like avoiding food, not wanting to take treats or high value treats, drooling excessively, especially if we don't have a dog breed such as like a Mastiff that does drool. So these can be signs that your dog's feeling sick. And then if you look at stress responses and recovery, so again, a well-functioning vagus nerve helps dogs recover quickly from stress. Dogs with poor vagal tone may stay in a heightened state of alertness for long periods. And again, how we can assess that stress recovery is looking at their stress level as a base, in like a novel but non-threatening environment. So you could go somewhere like nice and quiet for a walk, where maybe you know that there isn't any other dog walkers or people likely to be about. But this again can be hindered by the car journey. So obviously car journeys can be quite stressful as well. Or you may already have some sort of baseline knowledge of where your dog sits on the scale of like when they're at their normal rest mode and when they're excitable or when they're stressed out. A dog with good vagal tone will settle relatively quickly, while one with poor tone may remain hyper alert, panting, or restless for an extended time, which we've discussed already. But again, journaling can really help. Vocalization and swallow reflexes. So the vagus nerve controls muscles in the throat and the voice box, and a weak vagus nerve can lead changes in vocalization or difficulty swallowing. So sometimes people say, "Oh, my dog's changed the way that they bark," or they're not consuming their food properly. Like there seems to be an issue with them swallowing food. I worked in rescue for quite a long time, and it's not a nice space for rescue dogs to be in. So there, it's kind of like it's more blatant to see that these dogs are struggling, either whether it's struggling swallowing food or dogs that have come into boarding, they've bought themselves hoarse because of separation anxiety. So it's things like that. But obviously, for guardians at home in more of a relaxed environment because it's your home, you may see that like they do bark themselves hoarse. Maybe you've got a dog who vocalizes out the window all the time. So something that you could do with that is put window film. It's absolutely brilliant and it removes that trigger from your dog. And lots of people say, but I feel guilty putting up window film. But what you're actually doing is helping them to go back to a state of rest and you're improving the vagus tone. So don't feel bad for putting window film up, because with management, it means that we're helping our dog to get better and to get healthier. Also assess how your dogs swallow food or water. If they frequently gag or choke, this can be a sign of a vagus nerve impairment. So this can be difficult again because obviously with brassyophilic dogs, sometimes we see that water has to be monitored because they ingest far too much too quickly. So again, speak to the vet, find out what's normal they think for your dog as an individual, and then you can journal that from there as well. And then we get to the point of interpreting the findings of all the things that you've been doing and you've been recording. So if you notice signs of a low vagal tone, and like you've noticed heart rate variability and the lack of respiratory, slow digestion, prolonged stress recovery, vocalization changes, it definitely means that you need to go to the vets for an evaluation, for targeted interventions to support vagal health. And now hopefully you've got the power and the knowledge to be able to do this and say to your vet, I am specifically worried about their vagal tone. And then other things that we can do at home. So regardless of what the vet's doing or the cascade that they've began, other things you can do at home. So as well as like window film, if that's needed, do enrichment activities. So again, like I'm saying it again, but sniffing, foraging, gentle social play, like within the home, within the realm of people that the dog is comfortable with, or maybe you've got a multi-dog household and your dog's comfortable with each other, that can boost vagal function. Slow deep breathing exercises. So again, I'll drop the tutorials in the links in the comments. Again, teaching relaxed breathing through calm training sessions can encourage vagal activation. Massage and T-touch. So gentle massage, especially around the ears and the neck, can stimulate the vagus nerve. Again, check out the T-touch tutorials with Janet Finley, and also with Sarah, because she does absolutely brilliant talks as well. And it's really nice listening to Sarah talk because you've got such a soothing, calm voice. I can't remember her second name right now, but she runs Tilly's Farm. So you can either access her Facebook page, or you can access the Facebook group, which is Ace Connections, or she's got a website, which is tillyfarm.co.uk, I think. But if you type Tilly Farm into Google and T-touch, it will bring Sarah's page up. And again, lots and lots of help from these people who are qualified and this is their area specialty. Start looking at things like safe socialization and reducing stress. So avoid chronic stressors and start providing a predictable routine to enhance vagal tone over time. So working with a lot of people in the US particularly, taking your dog to a dog park or walking them outside of a dog park is the complete opposite of like helping your dog to reduce their stress and have safe socialization. Because for your dog, they may be scared that one of the dogs is going to come and get them. Lots of dogs bark because they can see the dogs running about and playing, and the dog isn't quite sure like what's happening. And unfortunately, it's every dog for themselves. Like, they want to protect themselves and their space. And this is why a lot of guardians are like, we can't even go to the dog park without the dog barking, lunging, growling. They put the brakes on. So try and think of nice, quiet areas to go. Hiring a secure dog field or a sniff spot in the US. And just taking the time to like let your dog sniff, and remember that the walk is for the dog and it's not for us. So again, like my mantra about subtly removing obedience is because we can take our dog for a walk once, twice, 3 times, 4 times daily, and we're hurting them. We're not helping them. Whereas if we go for one walk and we let the dog have a really sniffy walk, and we go around 2-3 streets, which is a block in the UK, not in the US, this can help dogs to like really have mental enrichment. It's getting those nice brain chemicals going, and then your dog should be relaxed enough when they come home to maybe have a Zoomy or two, and then to just crash out and sleep. And that's helping your dog to heal, because sleep again is another kind of medicine. So hopefully now you're starting to see a pattern with sleep being medicine and food being medicine and calmness and sniffing. Because the more that we exercise dogs, the more stress that we can be causing them, and then we start to see dogs go downhill. Whereas if we go for a sniffy walk and then miss the walk the next day, whether or not your dog reacted to another dog or a person, just focus on enrichment, like the licking activities and playing games with them can be a great form of bonding and can really help you to get to know your dog much better for if you do start to notice signs of a low vagal tone. So slow control breathing activities. So as I've just been saying, we're encouraging sniffing and scent work, slow leash walking, following the dog's natural rhythm, not ours. Calm breathing exercises like gentle yawns and slow petting. So we don't want to be like roughing the dog up or doing rough play with the dog. We just want to be calm and encourage calmness and stillness from them. So if you're reading a book or watching TV and you just got like one hand on a dog fussing them, and like my dog now, she's leaning into it because she's so used to doing it all the time. And that can really help as well. And for yourself, look into somatic breathing, which is a little bit different from box breathing because there's a different pattern to it. And again, that can be really helpful as well. And again, I can't say enough, please look over T-Touch tutorials. There's some fantastic tutorials, and sometimes Janet does like a course that's like massively reduced. It's like 10 quid or something, and I highly recommend going on these. I did a lot of them through lockdown, and I highly recommend that you do the same as well to learn how to properly apply different techniques to your dog, and then again journal it, see if you're seeing different behaviors occurring. So again, like he's saying, sorry, massage and gentle touch. So neck and chest massage stimulates the vagus nerve. Gentle ear and jaw rubs help to trigger relaxation. Lightest touch, no pressure. So again, like if you're touching your eye and you're rubbing your eye, you know what makes your eyeball feel uncomfortable, and you know what is just like, oh, rub my eye and it's not really bothering me. The not really bothering me aspect is what we should be applying to our dog. And observe a dog's body language. Let the dog show you their comfort level, and if they move away or they haven't come to you naturally, don't try and force it. We don't want to risk any dog bites or anything. We don't want to force them into being massaged. So think consent like you would with another person. Does my dog consent to this? Are they comfortable with this? And if not, just like another person, we move away and we wait for the dog to actually come to us. So licking and chewing activities, I know I'm just going over it again, but it's a long webinar, so sometimes it helps just to go back over things. So licking mats, long-lasting chews, frozen treats, engage the PNS. That's a system that we want our dog to becoming calm. Encourage slow eating versus gulping down meals. So you can do this by freezing their food, supplying slow feeders, or using enrichment bowls. Like, there is so much to choose from now with pretty patterns of like mountains and the sunset. So there's like so many things that you can use nowadays that can really help. And if you're limited because you're on a budget, just get a plastic cup and then fill it with your recipe, their meal, chuck it in the freezer. 8 hours later, that meal is then ready to go. And you just run the plastic cup under the hot tap, and it just comes away on its own. And then just put down a mat maybe while your dog's licking it, so you're not getting all the ingredients as it defrosts over the carpet. And again, this helps with self-soothing and nervous system regulation. Okay, so again, these predictable and calming routines. So you want to keep transitions nice and calm, like leaving the house, bedtime. So with bedtime, if you start preparing for bedtime and then sit back down again, the dog's not anticipating, oh, I'm going to be locked downstairs, or I'm going to be locked in the crate. Or again, conversely with your walks, getting the harness and lead out, which means you're going straight out. So providing some structure, it's going to reduce your stress and their stress. Use calming cues, soft tones, slow movements. I know it's really hard for people, and I do know that we're all human, so don't put into yourself too much, but try and aim to have calming tones with your dogs and move about slower instead of everything being a complete mad rush or having quite a high pitched voice as well, because the softer we are, that makes our dog softer and more relaxed as well. Where possible, avoid overwhelming environments. So, for example, like having builders in and that kind of thing. So, if you've got builders in or strangers coming into the house, where can we have the dog where they feel safe and they don't have to interact with these people or deal with the noises that may be occurring in the house as well? Because you have to remember that we've brought this dog into our family. This dog is also a family member, and we need our family members to feel safe. Like, that's the main job that we have, especially as adults, is to make sure every family member feels safe and having their needs met. The same goes for your dog. We've got to make sure we do include the dog, and we don't just see the dog as like a part of the furniture, so to speak. Um, so again, if you look at physical connection and pressure therapy, I love it when people say that the dog leans up against them, because that's a dog clearly communicating that they find comfort in leaning against somebody. And it's that consistent pressure that they're seeking. Pressure wraps can help. Again, T-Touch wraps, they can help. There's lots of tutorials from T-Touch instructors how to use them. And always observe your dog's responses. So it should be a soothing experience, not a restrictive experience. Encourage restful sleep. So we don't just want a dog who's waiting for us to move. We saw this a lot through the lockdown. So a lot of people are saying, my dog's been really hyper, they've never been like this before. My dog's really struggling, and it's because of the foot traffic. Like, we don't realise the amount of movement that we have in a day, and this is disrupting our dog's normal routine. So what we typically see is that a dog goes to sleep 5 to 10 minutes after we've left. They've got into that routine, but now we're at home all the time, we're bothering them, they're not able to sleep. So we have to make sure the dog's got a safe space within the home, which is away from foot traffic and away from noise. Use common sense to help, because that can support relaxation, such as lavender, chamomile. I know some people use skullcap and blaring around fireworks. Check out Pet Remedy, because they have got peer-reviewed papers that you can look at for all different kinds of species. And then you know that the company is not just trying to say, oh, our stuff works really well. It is there in black and white, and it's peer-reviewed. So you know that it is coming from a reliable source. And the more that dogs can rest, the better emotional regulation that they have. So again, clients who've worked with me know that I always bang on about dogs should be getting 14 to 18 hours of sleep a day, especially depending on their age. And people go, oh, that's so much though, that's like the whole day. But dogs break their sleep up into nap times. And we want to make sure when they are napping that they can sleep properly and deeply and that their body internally can be healing from the craziness of the day. Then we've got the treat and retreat game. So there's this like thing going on where people are saying, oh, just ask if you can, give treats to somebody's dog. Or if you see somebody in the walk, just ask them if you can give your dog some of the treats. Instead of doing that and putting the dog in an unpredictable situation, because it's so scary for them, we'd ask you to toss treats behind a nervous dog. We wouldn't ask you to put your hand out to them or offer them treats. Tossing the treats behind means that they can move away, eat, and then re-engage on their terms. They may choose that they don't want to re-engage and they want to hide behind their guardian. That's absolutely fine. And this empowers the dog because it's building their confidence and reinforces that they've got positive associations. They're not being forced into a situation where they're fearful, they're scared, and they don't want to be in this interaction. For example, like we wouldn't just expect other people to come up and start stroking or patting us. It's the same thing. Our dogs have that autonomy as well. They get the choice of who they do and don't interact with. And trying to force interactions, unfortunately, becomes an NHS bite statistic in the UK. And dogs are forced into situations that they just don't want to be in. Okay, so let's have a quick look at a case study before we wrap up. So we've got a dog from a rescue centre, struggles with separation anxiety, he's got digestive issues, and is hyperactive. So how are we going to help this dog? He was constantly pacing, having difficulty to settle, and digestive issues. So guardians rescued the dog. The dog's presenting with all of these problems. The guardian's not sure what to do. A lot of clients come to me and say the rescue's blocked them, or they don't know how to proceed further, or they want to return the dog to the rescue, but they're being dissuaded from doing so. And I think it's important that we recognise that to raise a dog, whether it's a puppy or from a rescue centre, that it takes a village. So we've already seen the symptoms that are going on. We've got a restless dog, we've got a dog with separation anxiety, a dog who can't settle, and a dog who's panting, showing frustration and possibly fear. So what we want to do is focus on the dog having a better diet. So again, nothing wrong with rescue centres, but unfortunately, because of how charities run, rescue centres do depend on donations of food, which means that most of these dogs are never getting a regulated diet or a diet that's individual or specific to them. So the first thing we want to do is go to the vets, and we want to have a proper veterinary check. We don't want a booster appointment. We don't want a quick look over. We want to use magic words, and we want to say, I would like a cascade and an investigation starting into my dog's behaviour about how we can best support them moving forward. This may include saying things like, I want to see a veterinary nutritionist, so that you can have your individual dog on a diet that's been tailored just for them. And working with a nutritionist, you can rule things out about, okay, so what foods are working, what foods aren't working. And when you work together, that means that we're not looking at a standardized kibble for your dog that's, sometimes really expensive. We're instead looking at foods that helps your dogs. And as an individual, we're seeing their stools coming back to normal. We're seeing a dog who's less stressed. Maybe their appetite is like plateaued because you're working with a veterinary nutritionist. And there is a difference. So we have vets who do specializations in lots of different things, just like doctors at the hospitals. So we definitely want a nutritionist on board. So that's how we can start improving the diet and support their gut-brain health functions. And again, we may be looking at pain. Is a dog in pain? It's not just senior dogs who struggle with arthritis. If you look at the CAN website, you can see lots of young dogs, lots of their case studies of dogs struggling with pain. So your vet might want to begin by starting a pain trial for a month or 2 weeks. They may start a trial of fluoxetine. They may ask you to go see a physiotherapist, a hydrotherapist, a canine chiropractor. So what the cascade does is it starts to eliminate what potentially is going on and potentially what is wrong. And we're also having the food and the nutrition aspect of our dog evaluated as well. And then you start to see this whole sphere to come together and working holistically. We're all working for that one individual dog. And for you as a guardian, sorry, and this is what's really important. And then your dog trainers and behaviourists, we're working with you as well. So we can communicate with the vets and the other professionals. Dog trainers can help you with everyday situations that you might be finding yourself in. So can behaviourists. But at the end of the day, you have lots of professionals who are all working for you and your dog as an individual. And that is how we can help dogs to improve their vagus tone. So if you have a reactive dog or emotionally challenged dog, sorry, if you've got friends that are saying that they've got a reactive or emotionally challenged dog, you can say to them, I've got all this information about the vagus nerve, and that's going to really help in helping that dog as an individual. Because, for example, on Reddit over Christmas, when I was trying to give people advice, I was getting called Chat GPT and AI, because basically there's like a level of anonymity on Reddit, and I don't think they expect professionals to actually come in and help you, even though these community subreddits exist. And people can feel affronted by it as well, feel threatened. Some guardians are scared of going to the vets because they may have had a bad experience. I did. So I do believe guardians, when they're scared of going to the vets, and we shouldn't assume that a guardian's lying. We shouldn't assume anything really. We should get down to the bottom of it and let our guardians trust us enough to communicate with us how they're feeling, past experiences, and why they might be feeling that way, instead of just throwing down judgment. And as a professional, if you haven't been on Reddit before, I strongly recommend you do, to see the normal lay people of the world and how much they're struggling across the world with their dogs, and how they can feel affronted by, advice that comes from a kind place. Because the same as any human being or a dog, once you've had that negative experience, your body and your brain remembers, and then you lash out. Same as a dog. You've had that experience. This is what's worked before, and now you're not going to stand for it. And because Reddit's anonymous for most people, they can get away with it, talk to you however they like. So it's not a healthy place to be. It's just a place where it can bring it home more, I think, for us as dog professionals, and help to humble us and bring about some modesty back as well. Because it can be very easy to get wrapped up in all the science and the scientific words and then lose guardians entirely, or even other colleagues. So as promised, here are the references and further recommended reading. If you would like to have a copy of the slides, and then you can do your own research as you feel ready, either reach out to me on Facebook, via Mutts and Mischief on the business page, or you can email me at muttsandmischief@gmail.com, and I'll be more than happy to share these slides with you. And if you've got any questions as well, I'm more than happy to answer questions. So if you're watching the recording, then you can still ask me questions as well. So I'm just going to step out of this screen for now. I'm going to return to StreamYard, check if there's any comments or questions. But if you're watching the recording, I will get back to you and I will answer your questions. So please don't be afraid that I'm not going to kind of like answer the questions and I've just dropped all this knowledge with you. But I do really hope that you've learned quite a lot tonight. Thanks, Roman, who said it's very important on undervalued subject. And it is, because if we do focus on dogs and look at their whole well-being, it's going to become the normal and the standardized way in which we view dogs, rather than being affronted, being scared, being worried that we're going to go to the vets, have a bad experience. So yeah, so I'm just going to wait for another minute to see if there's any questions pop up within StreamYard. And then obviously you can ask me questions on Facebook, on YouTube, because it's been live streamed there. And also, if we don't forget why we're doing this, also, hi Roman from USA. It is for mine. So if you've enjoyed my webinar, if you feel like you've learned something, then please go ahead and donate, and I'll drop the campaign link and the donation link in as well, so you can see more about why I'm doing this. The next webinar I'm going to be doing is about emotionally challenged dogs. That's been asked for in my community, so that's what I'm going to be focusing on next. I think that's really nice, moving from the vagus nerve into emotionally challenged dogs and looking at more proactive ways that we can help your learning and keeping your dog safe as well. So yeah, thank you for joining, and I really hope you've enjoyed it. And you know where I am if you need me. And I also do sell journals and medical packs. So the tools that I've been talking about tonight, to empower you and to help you with your dog. So until Wednesday, I might extend it actually because of this webinar. My latest journal, which is for all of the family to work on, which is nice and simple, and it supports both you and your dog, is at a special price of £5 because it's Neurodiversity Week this week, or has been. And I'll actually extend that to next Friday. So if you do want to grab it, it's only £5. And when it's printed out, it does look really nice. It's very simple to use. And it's got some lovely cartoons and different tools that children might enjoy as well. So that for children that are active in their dog's life, they're included as well. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Feel free to reach out, and I hope this has helped you, whether you're a guardian or a colleague. I hope it's helped.